digital lag, a plan to seize power on Earth, and digital slavery, how world leaders are preparing with the laws of the future. As lessons from the catastrophic contagion exercise conducted on 23rd October 2022 by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in collaboration with the World Health Organization and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the following recommendations were made to the authorities and how they should be understood. They must now prepare to make difficult, critical decisions with limited information in the early days of the next pandemic to increase the chances that dangerous outbreak can be contained at the source. Quarantines, lockdowns, travel restrictions, production and income cuts, supply chain disruptions, forced vaccinations with untested drugs with unpredictable health consequences, vaccine passports and other cuts to civil rights and freedoms amid dubious evidence of a real threat to human life and health, as well as an accelerated decline in the standard of living of the population. Countries should build a global network of professional public health leaders who can work together to improve epidemic preparedness and respond to seek scientific consensus before the next major outbreak. Official propaganda and agitation must convince the population of the threat that exists for them so that it's ready to accept any restrictions on the rights and freedoms from the authorities. Countries should prioritize efforts to build trust in government and public health, improving public health communication efforts, increase the resilience of the population to misleading information, and reduce the spread of harmful disinformation. Only the authorities and their official statements are the ultimate truth, and the words of scientists, doctors, and others who disagree with them are malicious disinformation and must be fought in the most decisive way. Finally, member states should strengthen the international systems for sharing and distributing scarce public health resources. The horror story spread by the organizations of the next pandemic cannot be effective if some WHO member countries have the audacity to have their own opinion on the issue, and in the future new Swabia, there must be a single new world order. 6 bills have been introduced by the Brazilian Congress to criminalize everything related to vaccines, from reducing the waiting list for a vaccine to people spreading fake news about how vaccines work. Drafted by Senator Angelo Coronel, it would include the penal code a prison sentence of 1 to 3 years for people who ignore or oppose mandatory vaccination of children or adolescents in a public health emergency. The draft provides for criminal liability for 2 to 8 years in prison for people who refuse to take mandatory doses of vaccine. They are also going to punish those who spread fake news about vaccines or how they work. If a person is a civil service servant, the penalty is doubled. The proposal was buzzed on social media when the Senate website ran a poll about the bill and was rejected by 92% of the people who answered the questions. In addition to the colonel, other deputies made their proposals. If someone tries to get through during vaccination without a queue, then such a person is punished for a period of 2 to 5 years and a fine. The use of a false dose of a vaccine or simulation of its use becomes crimes involving imprisonment for 5 to 15 years. The offense is aggravated if committed by a public servant. There is no particular doubt that these bills, despite their rejection by society, will be approved by the deputies as laws. There are many diseases in the world for which mandatory vaccinations have not yet been made for everyone, and pharmaceutical and biotech companies want to get not only a lot of research, trials, but also make good money on it. And then we have the Great Reset. The legend was born after World Economic Forum WEF Summit in June 2020. We all remember very well that it was the peak of the epidemic back then. The WEF aims to promote cooperation between public and private sectors of the economy, and since 1971 has preached the stakeholder theory. This is the idea that both government and independent businesses are responsible for the well-being of the planet and society as a whole. Klaus Schwab, founder and president of WEF, published an article which he tried to explain the idea of the so-called Great Reset of capitalism. He also advocated the introduction of new taxes on health, the establishment of fairer trade mechanisms, and reducing the dependency of the energy sector on fossil fuels. The narrative turned out to be very vague, and as WEF president, did not set out specific details of achieving the stated goals. However, Schwab expressed his conviction that leaders of states would keep these ideals in mind when making decisions. The article drew legitimate criticism, but it was not the only one that spawned the conspiracy theory. First of all, the WEF cooperates with most influential elites, which in itself causes skepticism among the public regarding the motives of this organization. Secondly, the term Great Reset looks very pretentious and therefore suspicious. Finally, among other materials published by the organizations of the summit, a work in the style of Aldous Huxley's dystopian Brave New World was discovered, a long title of which begins with the world's welcome to 2030. The unknown hero living in the large city describes his life here. In his world, people own nothing. They are transported by free unmanned vehicles. Smart AI makes purchases for them. There's no need to pay for housing. If it is not a luxury apartment, tools are also provided free of charge. They only need to be returned when the necessary task is completed. Citizens have virtually no right to privacy, as everything they do is tracked by a multitude of interconnected web services. The totality of this information actually looks somewhat strange, which did not fail to take advantage of the world's conservative circles, which are traditionally included to put forward various conspiracy theories. The seeds of doubt and discord were sown. Klaus Schwab tried to explain himself by saying that the call for the Great Reset in the dark times of the epidemic was an attempt to point out the need for radical changes in health, education, and social opportunities. But the genie seems to be out of the bottle. The Great Reset conspiracy theory has had time to acquire horrifying details. Today, millions of people believe that the leaders of the leading countries of the world, carrying out the will of a group of influential villains, are going to forcibly vaccinate, microchip entire populations of the planet, put them on a credit needle, redistribute wealth, and do many other obscene things. And all this is regularly discussed in the world media and, of course, on the internet, the main platform for the dissemination of phobias sometimes becoming real-life nightmares. And this is from Solask. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.